Hello everyone. For the past 2-3 weeks, I was reading a book, and while I was reading it, and while I finished it last week, there were a lot of thoughts that came to my mind, and I was like, I wanted to talk about it. To tell you, I come from a historical background. I don't have much, I have not read a lot of English literature books, but this is one of those literature book that I have really delved into it. And the book I'm talking about is Oscar Wilde's The Pictures of Dorian Gray. And well, this book has a lot of things that I can say that it's still very relevant in in today's world. It was published in 1890, but I think it is still very relevant in 2026. Why am I saying that? Because maybe one of the reason is that people's emotion never change. People are still that emotional being, and and maybe that's why I feel it is really relevant till now. So if you have not read the book, you might not get connected with whatever I'm saying, because I can't tell all the stories, all the like overall stories of the book in one video. Obviously, if you want it, I can provide it, but as of now I want to just talk about my own reflection on it. So the book basically revolves around two main characters. One is obviously Dorian Gray, and second one is Lord Henry, and the third one is Basil Hallward. And Basil is the one who made the portrait of Dorian Gray, in which, after seeing the portrait, Dorian himself realized that how beautiful being a boy he is, and with the influence of with the persuasive nature of Lord Henry, he realized that this youth that he has, he shouldn't waste it away. And he made a wish at the time that he wished that that picture gets old and he remains as youthful as he is now. And that's what basically happens. So in this novel, we have some gothic elements also, so many elements of 19th century in the book, which I won't talk about. uh, I want to talk about the things which has only affected me, and with that, there are so many elements in this book, from 19th century aestheticism to French decadence movements, but I won't be talking about it because I don't have much knowledge about it, so I won't be speaking about. I'll be speaking about the things which made me think while I was reading this book. The first thing which made me think was the death of Sybil Van. She was a struggling actress who falls in love with Dorian Gray, and Dorian Gray falls in love with her, and they decided to get married. But one night, Dorian Gray realized that he never loved Sybil Vane. In reality, it was his only fascination with whatever capabilities that Sybil Vane has. And when he realized that Sybil is gone crazy about him, he left her there, and she committed suicide that night, and she died. And at that moment, I was trying to understand what really happened between these two. And I realized that in most cases, we women, we leave our passion for our love. When we are in love with somebody, we leave everything. We just want to be with that person. And that's what Oscar Wilde has shown in the book, which I felt maybe was a reality of that century. And it is, and in 26 also it's very prominent, because there are still so many women out there in this world who doesn't realize that to have a passion is one thing and to have a love is another thing. Both can exist together. We shouldn't leave one for the other. So that's the thing came across my mind, and we shouldn't give up. We should never give up our passion for our love, because the one who loves us will love our passion also. But the so when Sybil Vane died, I was questioning whether Dorian Gray killed her, his cruelty killed her, or it was the vulnerability of Sybil Vane that killed her. Obviously, this answer is not easy, and I realize that it's not easy. It's not black and white, but I feel that Dorian Gray carries more moral responsibility than Sybil Vane in her death. So the another thing that I got reflection was on gender. If you read the book, especially in the lines of Lord Henry, you will find a lot of misogynistic statements from his talks, and I realize these are not actually Wilde's, Oscar Wilde's thoughts. It's what the society thinks about women at the time, and I believe still men thinks about women in that way, that women are emotional fool, that women are, and that women can't think of anything, that they are men and all. I was trying to understand it. I used to think that maybe women are more emotional than men, and I was trying to understand it, and I realized that no, it is not like women are more emotional than men. It is more like both are emotional, both has the same emotional wavelength. It just that maybe it's more about the expression and the conditioning that women has, because women are more expressive than the men, and that's why maybe we are shown as more emotional, but in reality both are emotional. uh, I feel like in that case most of the men are good at escaping their escapism. Yeah, so it's not emotional but more expressive and more invested. Women are just more expressive and more invested than men. Both are emotional in that way. So after Sybil Vance's death, Dorian Gray goes out in the world and he explores everything around in the world, and he treats people like object. He treats people like an experience, but not as a human being. So whatever the thoughts and outlook that Lord Henry has, he seems very wise, but he's very dangerous being, and he has influenced Dorian in such a way that Dorian can't see anything else than self-indulgence. And what I realized about Lord Henry after reading everything, I realized that his view on women, his view on society, his view on personal life, his view on soul and senses, I realized that he is a coward. Actually, he is a coward hiding behind his intelligence. He shows the world that he is very intelligent, but in reality he is just hiding behind all those intelligence. He is a coward. He is someone who afraid to take responsibility. He is someone who afraid to take accountability. Not afraid, he never takes accountability. And he is a perfect example of the people I have seen around. He's very pessimistic and cynical in his nature. There are a lot of words that he talks about and that made me really disturbed, and which was that you know there is one line in a very early chapter he tells to Dorian Gray, and it really sticks with him. It says that nothing can cure the soul but the senses, just as nothing can cure the senses but the soul. This line just wholly define that the importance of senses in the world, in the life of someone. And he says that those who are faithful knows only the trivial side of love. It is the faithless who know love's tragedies. I mean, the worldview that he has is very pessimistic and is very problematic for me personally, and I didn't like it. Whatever he talked about men, he has a very pessimistic view on love, women, life, marriages, and everything. Yeah, so I find him a coward who hides behind his intelligence. The book, in chapter 11 of the book, we see that how Dorian Gray was indulged with so many things. He discovered so many passions and interests in his life. He was aware of. He was so fascinated by perfumes. He was fascinated by textiles, different musical instruments, jewelries, and global creatures. The chapter 11 of this book, as a historian, as a history student, I realized that chapter 11 shows the colonial reality of 19th century, because it was a period when England was ruling most of the part of the world, and they were collecting a lot of artifacts without understanding its value, obviously, and collecting it. And that's what Dorian Gray has done in the book, and that's what Oscar Wilde has tried to show us, the world of high class English nobles and how they were living at that time, how they were collecting a lot of stuff without understanding it. There is a reference of Delhi muslins, there is a reference artifacts from China, Japan, Mexico, Brazil, a lot of things. Yeah, that chapter 11 is interesting if you want to know or knowledge all about the, if you want to chapter 11 is interesting for the cultural history background. But it also, and chapter 11 also shows that the collection that Dorian Gray has made, it was not about knowledge. He wasn't collecting a knowledge, he was just consuming it because he wanted to show the world that he has everything that he wanted in his life. So after finishing this book, I realized that the extreme individualism, how dangerous extreme individualism can be, because we are social beings. That's what I believe. Maybe we are, the evolution made us in this way, that we are social being, and extreme individualism and extreme indulgence is dangerous for a person. And I also see that if someone is only, if someone is only after pleasure, because that's what I have read in so many books, and I realize also that if someone is only after pleasures, it destroys emotional depth. And if there is no emotion, you are not a human being, you are a robot. And that is entirely impossible, because if you are a human, you will have emotion, and if you have lose your emotion, you will go insane. And that's what happened with Dorian Gray in the end of the book. And I also realized that freedom without responsibility become destruction. And this book teaches lot of things about the society of 19th century, how they looked up to men, women, theater, art, aesthetic. Another thing, it teaches how extreme self-indulgence and individualism can never take us anywhere. So when I say that, why I feel this book is still very relevant is that now, especially in the cities, people are really self-indulged, because people are after escapism, people are irresponsible, people are very self-indulgence. And that's what this book basically talks about, and that's what I see around in and around in me, in the world. And I mean, obviously, my 10 minutes of description of this book is not enough. I would encourage you to read it by yourself, and try to see that how you react to the book, how you react to particular stories and event in the book, and you realize that what kind of person you are. I think more than knowing this book, I have known more about myself by reading it, and I would encourage everyone to read it. Picture of Dorian Gray. Thank you for listening to me.